Hi YouTube, Art here again with another audio video, and I know it's been a while. I took some time off. I went to World Series of Warzone. I helped out Repulse with the Pulse Check watch party there. I went to TwitchCon. I met a ton of you guys along the way. Thank you so much for coming up and saying hi, asking to take photos. That is crazy. Well, in the months since I've done an IEM roundup, I have collected a lot of other IEMs. Some of them I've bought, some of them were sent to me by Linsol, and in today's video, we're gonna do a roundup of what I have right now. Now, there's two sets that I'm not a huge fan of that I'm gonna get out of the way first. The first one are the Heartfield Blancs. Now, these were just sent to me by Linsol. These are $250 5 balanced armature resin IEMs. Now, these are vented, unlike the Orchestra Lights, meaning there's a hole in the shell so you don't have to deal with ear pressure. But man, the tuning on this just doesn't work in game. It doesn't even really work in music for me. There's not a whole bunch of bass. They're just kind of like the Orchestra Lights with less detail and less bass, and they just don't do it for me. The pluses are it has a nice cable, it comes with a nice metal case, and the IEMs themselves look pretty cool. I wish they sounded as good as they look. They're also super comfortable, so if you want something that doesn't sound great but looks cool and super comfortable, these are yours. The next IEM I've had for quite some time from Linsol, and a lot of people like them, but I wasn't a big fan. These are the Intuaura SplendorIIs. Now, these are a single dynamic driver IEM, and they're around $250, and for me, that is just too expensive for a single dynamic driver IEM. Now, the tuning on it is great. It has a lot of bass. There is some detail there, but in hectic situations where a lot of stuff's going on in game, or EDM, when I listen to EDM in the test playlist, which I'll link down below, it's just way too crowded and cluttered, and the driver really struggles to keep up. Now, the pluses, the shell is super comfortable in your ear, they're super light, and they're like super vented. This text on the back of the shell that I'll show here on screen, those are actually the vents for the IEM. Now, the other nice part is this comes with a great, nice braided cable. It comes with a USB-C to 3.5 DAC, a bunch of tips, and a nice case. So I think what you're paying for, all the accessories, personally, I much prefer some of the hybrid IEMs that I've reviewed and some IEMs that we're going to cover in today's video over this, especially for the price. For $250, you can get the Fresh Reviews X SIMGOT Arites, which are still my top pick, and they just sound way better for the price. Now we got those two out of the way, I guess what makes most sense is to go from my least favorite to my most favorite. So next up are the Supermix4s from SIMGOT. Now, one day this company will make IEMs that I like. Today is not that day. These are a 4-driver hybrid. They have a planar magnetic, a dynamic driver, a balanced armature, and a piezoelectric driver. Now, because of that, these IEMs do require a lot of power to sound loud enough, and the bass is okay. It's thick, warm bass that sounds great in songs, but it is just kind of one-dimensional compared to a lot of other IEMs I've tested on this channel and that we're going to cover in this video. And in Call of Duty, and in a lot of the music I listen to, specifically Call of Duty, the audio cues, the footsteps are in that upper bass range, so the less one-dimensional, the more detail you can get in the bass, like from the Arites, the better. The mid-range is okay on these, they're a little scooped, and the high-end, or the treble, is a little shouty, kind of like the P1 Maxes, so I'm not a huge fan of that. You are to expect that, though, because of the planar magnetic driver. You can use foam tips, and that will lessen the shoutiness of these. Now, imaging was good, almost too good sometimes. I felt like sounds kind of flopped from ear to ear. I don't know if this is my set or my ears, but it was kind of weird. And then soundstage. I had some weirdness with the soundstage. In general, it does have that bookcase effect, where everything kind of comes in, instead of the kind of orchestra effect you get from the Arites. There were also times where I physically heard things at the bottom of the soundstage, it sounded like, and it really messed with my ability to tell where cues were coming from. So for that reason and for the price, there are a lot of other IEMs that I would pick over these. I will say one of the great things about it is the shell. It is a comfortable shape. It is very much like the Arites. It will fit most people's ears. There is a little seam around the edge between the metal plate and the plastic back, and that does get itchy after a little while, but that's just nitpicking. Now, the accessories on the Supermix4 were fine. There's a stock cable, there's tips, and they were nothing to write home about. Like I say in every video, I do have links to an upgraded cable that I would recommend and some tips that I like to use. These can all be found on my tier list as well. Because of the issues with soundstage in these, I would pass on these for Call of Duty. The bass resolution just isn't there, the bass detail isn't there, and the weird imaging and soundstage stuff I had just really doesn't speak to an accurate in-game IEM. Also, as of recording this video, my right side just kind of stopped working on the bass end, so that's not a big vote of confidence. Maybe I just got a bad set. It happens sometimes. QC can be rough, but I figured I'd mention it. Next in the roundup, we actually have one of the two Kiwi Ears that are featured in today's video. These are the Kiwi Ears KE4s. Now these are a 2 dynamic driver, 2 balanced armature set that cost around $200. Now these feature a tuning that Critical, the headphone reviewer, refers to as the new meta tuning. In terms of sound profile, there is a lot of really thick, warm bass, especially the sub bass, the lower end. The mids are pretty prominent, and then the high end is a little recessed, so they don't feel very shouty. Because of the heavy bass and the heavy mids, in-game with streaks and chests and gunfire, it is just really crowded sounding, and it feels really kind of bloated and thick, and they don't really sound great in Call of Duty. Now, I will say that the bass forward sound is really nice in jazz, in EDM. That is all super fun to listen to on this set, but for $200, I really wish they performed better in game. The lack of a soundstage, everything just kind of sounds right up on your head, really doesn't help in game. It does make music feel intimate and warm, but that is not what I'm going for in a gaming centric headset. The imaging on this is good, so left and right is very clear, but like I said, that soundstage is just very, very close, and the sound signature is so warm that it feels really crowded and not very analytical, which is what I usually go for in a set of IEMs. They have a really nice shell. They're kind of like a smaller Orchestra Lite. They have this silver faceplate and black resin shell. They are vented, so you don't have to worry about ear pressure, and I think this would fit most ears. Now, what I did like about this set, they did have a really nice set of stock tips. The tips have this like little silicone screen that prevents the screen on the actual IEM from getting earwax on it, and they were just very, very comfortable. The cable was fine, and the case is the case that usually comes with Kiwi Ears, so nothing too special. Now, I have created a tier list, which I will link down below, so make sure you check that to see where these stack up against the rest that I've reviewed in the history of this channel. Just to be clear, I do not recommend the KE4s for COD. If you're listening for strictly music, they're great. For Call of Duty, I would pass on these. Next set we're gonna hop into are actually another set of Kiwi Ears. These are the Kiwi Ear Cantas. Now these are a unique driver hybrid setup. These are 2 planar magnetic drivers and 1 dynamic driver. The best part is the price. These are only $89. And let me tell you, I am a big fan of the sound. The imaging and soundstage on these is fantastic. It is really easy to kind of pinpoint where sounds are coming from on the map and to hear where instruments are played in the mix. I think the best part about this set is the bass. And as I've complained about on all the other IEMs I've talked about in this video, the bass in those can kind of be one-dimensional, where it's just kind of one note. That is not the case in this set. There is so much detail and dimension in the bass that it really, really works well in COD, because you're listening for footstep cues above and below that are gonna be in that bass region. And it makes it really, really easy to hear where those are coming from and the detail in them, so you can tell, are they above, are they below, are they on sand, are they on metal, so on. The one problem with these, the treble. The treble is a little bright, kind of like the P1 Max 2s. They can be a little bit shouty on gunshots, on cymbals. So I would recommend, like the other IEMs I talked about, get some foam tips and try them out. I'll link some in the description as well at the bottom of the tier list. Because these have 2 planar magnetic drivers, the technicalities on this are great. Everything feels really fast and sharp and crispy, and I can really tell all of the separate sounds in the mix without getting bloated or crowded, things I complained about in the earlier IEMs on this list. The dynamic driver here really does give the bass that nice body without overloading and overbearing the planar drivers, so you can still get that detail. The cables and tips included are okay at best, but like everything else, I would recommend buying some of the aftermarket ones I suggest. The Canta shell is nothing really special. It's a plastic shell with a metal faceplate, pretty plain looking. They are comfortable, they fit well, they're not too big, they're not too small, and they are vented, so I think this will fit fine in most people's ears. Now, these are kind of priced right next to the Tengsu Fudus, which I reviewed in the previous roundup, and I do think these edge them out just a little bit because of the detailed reproduction. The Tengsu Fudus feel really great, but I think the planar magnetics over the balanced armatures in the Fudu really just give it that extra crispy detail that I find really helpful in game. Now, the final set in this video is from a brand we haven't reviewed yet. These are the Shozy P20s. I hope I'm saying that name right. These are a single planar magnetic, large planar magnetic driver IEM. Now, these go for about $140 or so, but the day before recording this video, there was a sale on Amazon as well as on Linsole for 50% off. So these are going for like $65 and change. Kind of a crazy deal. Definitely check it out if it's still live. Now let's get into the sound. These are my favorite that I've tested. They just have so much bass without ever getting bloated. I know I say that term a lot, but there are IEMs that you get where it's just so much bass that it overwhelms everything. These are not like that. These have a lot of texture, more so than the Cantas, in the bass. There's just so much detail. You can hear I've heard things in certain bass heavy songs like Country Rhythm by Hole that I have on the playlist. There's like a certain crispiness on the top of that bass hit that I've never ever heard before until I use this set. So for me, in game, these do fantastic. I can hear really well the kind of reverb that they've put on the footsteps because, again, the footsteps in COD are really bassy. So the amount of detail I get in the low end is just fantastic on this set, and it's kind of crazy that it's coming from a single driver. The mid-range on this is good. They're not quite as scooped as the Cantas, and it sounds very, very natural. The best part is, though, the treble on this, unlike the P1 Max 2s or the Cantas, it is not shouty at all. It feels really nice and balanced, and they just really sound great. Now, the imaging and soundstage on these is fantastic. There is so much space. It's even spacier than the Cantas. I feel like I can really easily place where things are, and it's just a very spacious sounding IEM. Specifically for live tracks or jazz, I feel like I can hear the room they're recording in, and I can hear all those different subtleties. I really didn't expect this from a $140 set. I would say they are very 3D sounding, probably even more so than the P1 Max 2s. Again, like the Cantas, these are planar magnetic drivers, so they're very fast drivers. So the technicalities are really good. When stuff gets crazy in music or in game, they don't really feel like they're ever getting overloaded or overcrowded. Now, the shell is really nice. It has a resin vented shell, and the outside has this really cool metal faceplate that has like crop circle patterns on it. I really like the look on them. Now, the accessories are so-so. It comes with a cable, it comes with a case, it comes with tips. Like I've said with every other set, buy some aftermarket ones. They're going to be way better. I will say one note about these. There is a little bit of driver flex, which is when you push them into your ear, you can kind of hear the driver moving around from the pressure difference. It's only a big deal if you move them around a lot. I didn't really see a problem. It is a deal breaker for some people. I know we kind of flew through those. I hope it was helpful. I just needed to get rid of the backlog of IEMs that I have. I actually have 2 more that we didn't cover in this video, but they are much higher priced and I just haven't put them through the paces. So I'm going to do that after this. So make sure you're subscribed with notifications on so you know when I upload those. Also, as I mentioned throughout the video, I do have a tier list. It'll be linked down in the description below. I will keep this updated as I do these reviews so you can kind of keep track of how I think about the new IEMs I review compared to the ones I already have. On the tier list, if you click each IEM, there's a breakdown for affiliate links, for the construction, the amount of drivers, the video review, so on and so forth. So make sure you bookmark that, share it with your friends. It will be a great kind of Bible for Call of Duty IEMs. I also have like 3 controllers to test here. So I'm going to dive into that with the IEMs here in the next couple weeks as we move forward to Black Ops 6. I will be working on new audio settings for Black Ops 6, so make sure you have notifications on for that. And until the next video, I'll catch y'all later. Peace.